What is up, Buffalo fanatics? Z-Bot here with you, live on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel on a Victory Monday night. Couple days late. Technically, it was a Victory Friday, but it was a Victory weekend, therefore, a Victory Monday night. And that, of course, can only mean one thing. It is the smoke break. So good to have you in fresh off of NFL Week 3. What a wild Week 3 it was. Did you watch the witching hour in the 1 p.m. window in Week 3? Absolute insanity. Blocked kick after blocked kick after blocked kick. Pick six after pick six. Upset galore. A wild Week 3. But a good Week 3 for the Buffalo Bills, who improved to 3-0. One of only 6 remaining undefeated teams in the NFL. And that 3-0 start comes off the back of a 31-21 victory over the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. The Bills get back-to-back divisional victories, 2-0 in the division, 3-0 overall in the NFL. They set their sights on the New Orleans Saints in Week 4, where the Buffalo Bills are currently, yes, you're hearing this correctly, a 16.5-point favorite. The Bills are 3-score favorites this upcoming weekend. This past week in Week 3, the Bills were the biggest favorite in the NFL through 3 games in 2025. The Bills were at one point a 12.5-point favorite against the Dolphins. I think it closed around 11. Came close to covering it. They're an even bigger favorite this upcoming weekend. This spread this weekend, not only is it the biggest in the NFL thus far, but it's the equivalent of like a 40-point spread in college. If you watch college football, you'll notice oftentimes teams will be favored by a ridiculous amount of points, sometimes 40, 50 points. Not this past Saturday, the weekend prior, Penn State, my Nittany Lions were playing Villanova, and they were a 48.5-point favorite. And you're looking at that and you're saying, what? How is that even possible? Well, in the NFL, that doesn't exist. The parity in the NFL is so great. Of course, that's why the NFL has become what it's become. So many of these teams, despite the best of the best and the worst of the worst, the narrow gap between the two is not nearly what it is in college football, obviously. The reason I bring that up is because a 16.5-point favorite in a game, it is the equivalent to one of those 48.5-point spreads in college. It's just unheard of. And that's what the Buffalo Bills are favored this upcoming week against the New Orleans Saints, who are 0-3, potentially the worst team in the NFL. They got smacked in Week 3 by the Seattle Seahawks, who scored in almost every way you could possibly imagine. The final score of that game wound up being 44-13. So a similar outcome is expected this upcoming weekend. We'll talk whether or not we should anticipate that type of outcome later on in the show. We'll talk about whether or not that's a fair outcome to predict based on what we saw on Thursday. Many of us had thought the Bills would cruise past Miami. They do end up winning by 10. They do end up scoring their traditional 30 points. But it wasn't as easy as I think many had thought. I thought it was going to be easier. I didn't think it was going to be, 42-10 by any means. I think the final score I predicted was 33-17. So give or take a couple of points, I was right around the number. But you have to factor in a variety of things in last week's game. The Miami Dolphins backed into a corner terribly. Through the first 2 weeks, they're 0-2. They lose an awful game to the New England Patriots, one that they were not expecting to lose, one that they probably should have won. They get rolled in Week 1 against an Indianapolis Colts team that is currently in the room with Buffalo right now as one of the remaining 6 undefeated teams. With the resurgence of Daniel Jones in Indy, that is absolutely crazy. But you were facing a team that was desperate, and they played a solid football game really for about 57 minutes. And it was around that point in time in the game where the Miami Dolphins did Miami Dolphins things. Tua Tagovailoa did things that we're accustomed to seeing him do, and he turned the ball over. The Bills end up winning it. So we'll dive into what we saw in that game. I know it's a few days removed, but that's because I was gone for the majority of the weekend. That's because I was up in Buffalo for the game. Let's talk about that first before we dive into what we saw on Thursday Night Football. The Roundtable Sports event was this past week in Buffalo, and it was better than anything we could have imagined. I know I speak for Rico when I say that. It was just an incredible outing. It was so amazing to be able to be a part of that, and it was incredible to be able to meet so many of you. I can't overstate just how awesome that was. Caroline, how are you? Here's Caroline. Today we are
33 weeks.
33 weeks and counting. I know many of you who I met last week were wanting to give your best to Caroline and are, of course, as excited as ever to see Baby Bot come to life. And we are, 7 weeks away from that being reality? I'm seeing right here, by the way, the internet connection. It's telling me it's at 1. Let me know in the comments if I'm coming through choppy. I don't know what's going on the home front here.
Mine looks like it's at 3.
Caroline's got 3 bars. I'm posting only 1 bar, but I'm hoping that it looks good on your guys' end, because when I see the internet bugging on me, it always weighs on my mind. So let me know in the comments if we're looking all right on your guys' end, because I look up there, I'm seeing it's not good, and I'm like, oh, geez. Oh, God. All right, so Phil's coming in. He's saying hasn't skipped for me at all. All right, good. All right, so it looks like we're going to be all right. Hopefully it improves throughout the stream. Anyhow, so last week was just amazing. It was better than anything we could have expected. You know, we were really excited to go and meet people and just go to the game. That was probably going to be my last time at the Ralph. I don't get to go to games with Rico. That was the first time we had ever gone together. So there were so many reasons that we were excited, but it ended up trumping even the highest expectations. All of you guys who have supported the channel and the shows and us throughout time here, we love all of you. And to be able to put faces to names, meet some of you who have been supporting us forever, really forever. I mean, it's crazy to think back on how long we've been doing this and how long some of you have been along on the ride for us. To be able to meet you guys in person, I can't overstate just how rewarding that was, how special that was for us. And so many of you shared how great it was to meet us. And I want you to know that the feeling was beyond mutual. And it really was one of those life lasting moments that you only get ever so often, that I'll truly cherish and remember forever. I want to give a big shout out to so many of you. First and foremost, my main man, Richie Fresh, who's in the building. Here he is. Richie saying top 3 night of my life. We had a ball. Richie, the hospitality Richie showed was second to none. Truly, it was unbelievable. Richie, I'm indebted to you for how incredible of a night you gave to me, my buddy Nate, who was along for the ride. So we meet Richie at the night before event, which was at Southern Tier Brewing Company, which was the former 716 restaurant right now down near where the Sabres play. Meet Richie right off the bat. And, it's like you've known him forever. And in a weird way, you do, right? That's the odd thing. In a weird way, you do know, we do know each other forever. It's just you haven't met someone in person. I mean, even when I met Rico's buddy, Kevin, who we all know, great guy. I've been talking with Kevin, doing stuff with Kevin for years, never met him in person. So when you meet in person, it's just special. And it's unique in the sense that you know someone and you interact with someone often, but you've never put a face to the name. You've never been in person. And that was just so cool. But meeting Richie right off the bat, Richie, we were pounding ciders together. He was on the cider train with me, got to catch up all night, got to meet his wife through FaceTime, which was so cool. And then we kept the night rolling. Richie had this really cool hidden gem spot out in Cheektowaga. We went and got some underrated wings. All weekend long, people who aren't typically in Buffalo, they're like, oh, I heard this place is better than this place. Oh, don't go to this place. Listen, wings in Buffalo. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a bad spot. Have you ever had a bad wing in Buffalo? Maybe you've had wings that are better than others in Buffalo. But if you have a wing outside of the 716, and I'll give the 585 some credit because Rochester has some good wings. I mean, they do. They got some good joints for sure. But you get past Syracuse, and I don't even know if you can consider going that far. You don't know how good we have it until you go the distance and realize what the wing game's looking like outside of Western New York. And Richie had this hidden gem out in Cheektowaga. We went there. We played darts. We nailed down some wings till like 2 a.m. It was just an absolute ball. So, Richie, big shout out to you for really showing just an incredible amount of hospitality. We don't deserve you over here. We got to meet so many of you. Curtis, and his fiance, which was amazing. So great to meet you guys, Laura, Mike, Donut. The list goes on and on. I couldn't keep my head straight. It was just overwhelming, the amount of love and gratitude that we were being showed. And once again, it was mutual. And what a week we had to be able to go to that event, hang out, talk, catch up. Teddy Bassman was there. He was great, showing me his new man cave he's building. I was jealous as all hell of that. Just so many people, and everybody was as kind and just as great as I anticipated them to be, really. And I really, the second we left there was the second I was looking forward to doing this again. We don't do it enough. We should do it more often. And I got to give a massive shout out to the Roundtable boys, Colby, TD, Richie, and Dan. They put on one hell of an event. It was so kind of them to include us, have us involved, and be a part of that. And we are very thankful that they did. We had an absolute ball. No other way to put it. And obviously, of course, just for me, it was great to see Rico. I don't see Rico much as me and Rico are on here hanging and talking, every week all year. I don't get to see Rico. Last time I saw him was my wedding, which is a year ago this upcoming weekend. Shout out Caroline, the 1 year anniversary right around the corner. Yep, we got some fun plans this upcoming weekend, but it's been that long, right? So you don't get to do this stuff often. And we were really appreciative of the ability to be able to do that. And I hope you guys know everybody we met meant the world to us. Really, I will remember that for a long time. Wish we got to do it more often, but the fact that we did get to do it, the fact that you guys came out was just great. Now, there's no other way to put it. I really wish I had more of a eloquent way to describe how awesome it was, but the best way I can put it was that it was just awesome. And what was even more awesome was the ability to share a W with so many people as well, sitting right next to TD, me, Dan, TD, and Rico in one spot, behind glass in the Caesar Sportsbook Lounge at the Ralph. That was unreal. I haven't sat in a suite for a full game. I've been in suites coming and going. I've never sat in a suite for the entirety of a football game. Very unique. I don't know if you guys have sat in a suite for a game. Obviously, those of you who were with us have. Maybe that was your first time too. I was stunned at how quiet it was. You cannot hear anything going on the outside of the glass, on the other side of the glass. You can't hear anything. You can't hear the train horn on third down. You can't hear the crowd. You can't hear the music blaring through the speakers, nothing. So you're behind the glass, and all they're playing in real time is the WGR live game feed. So it was an interesting, unique experience because you're at the game, but in many ways it feels like you're not because you don't hear the standard stuff that you're typically accustomed to being surrounded by at the game. It was very unique and it was very awesome. That view was nuts. And just was so happy to be able to have done that in the final year here. I don't think I'm going to be able to get back there with the baby coming. And next thing you know, that stadium is going to be reduced to rubble, which is crazy. I was getting a little sentimental walking in there, walking out of there. And then you look at the new stadium, by the way, when you're walking in. I hadn't seen it since the Broncos wild card game. It looks like it's ready to go. It looks like you're ready to walk in there. There's a full side of it that doesn't have the siding on it yet. But for the most part, the entirety of it is complete. The shape of it is obviously formed. And from a distance, it looks like a stadium that's ready to go. And, the majority of it does have the exterior locked in, ready to go too. And you can just tell when you're looking at it in person, it's going to be a marvel. It's going to be something else. But you walk into the Ralph there, and it's still one of the more unique experiences in the NFL. I'll never take for granted the time that I've been able to spend there growing up my entire life. Kind of hit you when you were walking in, walking out, that is coming to an end. All good things have to come to an end sometime. Shout out to Dave Matthews. But I think that the other end of the bittersweetness here is going to be an incredible experience in that new stadium. But we got a great experience in the old stadium on Thursday night, 31-21. Watching the game alongside everybody was very fun. It was rowdy in there. Even though we couldn't hear the crowd, we made our own crowd in the Caesar Sportsbook Lounge, and the Dolphins fans were loud. TD was getting loud. There was a Dolphins fan there. I didn't catch his name, but he was the loudest person in the entire facility. He was having a ball. And I think, I was a little nervous at times the fact that he was excited for as long as he was. You know, he had the ability to cheer and hoot and holler for far longer than I anticipated. When he was screaming in the beginning of the game, Dolphins start the game off around the 50-yard line, take it the distance. I'm thinking, all right, let's let the Dolphins fans have their fun. You know what I mean? They're diehards too. You know, let them enjoy the moment. But that moment didn't really dissipate until, you know, a couple hours later. And there were times where it felt like the Bills were going to pull away. They didn't. Inevitably, they end up pulling away and getting a 10-point victory. But this was closer than I think a lot anticipated. It was a little closer than I anticipated. I think it was closer for longer than I anticipated. But we'll dive into what we saw in that game. We'll talk about what we saw in week 3 overall, how that impacts Buffalo, and take a look at what's down the pipeline here, because the Buffalo Bills, I said it last week, but you could even argue it's even more so now. They are set up right now. And in a little over an hour, the Baltimore Ravens will take on the Detroit Lions. I think the Ravens are going to roll in that game. Lamar is incredible against NFC opponents who do not see him often. His record against the NFC is unbelievable. And it's in Baltimore. I just got a feeling Baltimore rolls, but the off chance that they lose tonight, if the Ravens lose tonight, what more can you say? Because their schedule coming down the pipe is difficult. Not only do they play the Lions tonight, but they have the Chiefs coming up. They have the Rams coming up. I want to say the Houston game's difficult, but it's not, because through the first 3 weeks, the Houston Texans are the worst offense in the sport, which is insane. They can't score. They're 0-3. I don't think anybody saw that coming. You know, I tweeted out last week when they lost in primetime, another AFC contender falls to 0-2. And I'm kind of embarrassed I tweeted that out. That's no contender. That Houston Texans team right now is nowhere close to contending. In fact, they're not even close to contending in their own division right now. They're leaps and bounds away from what Daniel Jones is doing in Indianapolis. The difference right now between the Colts and the Texans is seismic. The Colts are playing infinitely better football, especially offensively. They're scoring 30 points at will. They put up over 40 points on Sunday afternoon, and the Houston Texans can't do anything. But that's one of the teams on the schedule for Baltimore. It's just not an easy upcoming schedule here, whereas for the Buffalo Bills, it doesn't really get easier. And I don't want to overlook anybody, but it's hard not to pencil in W's down the pipe here with what the Buffalo Bills have coming over the next several weeks. I mentioned that Ravens game. Let's take a peek. Let's go take a peek over at Sleeper. Let's lock some picks in for tonight on the Sleeper Picks app. I hope it's a good game. Like I said, the Ravens really do succeed, and Lamar Jackson in particular, of course, succeeds against defenses that just don't see that team often, don't have to plan for that team often. And there really isn't another team like the Ravens in the NFC. You might want to say the Eagles because Jalen Hurts runs and they have a great running attack overall, but nobody's like the Ravens. Nobody's like Lamar Jackson. And especially in the NFC, it's just, it's so different quarterback wise from the NFC to the AFC. You have to be on your A game almost every week in the AFC with the quarterback talent. In the NFC, it feels like you can get away a little bit more with some of the guys that you're routinely going up against. So that's what the Lions have to undergo tonight on Monday Night Football. So with that said, I'm going to just look at Lamar's numbers here, and I'm probably going to take the more on Lamar rush yards. 45.5. Give me the more on Lamar's rush yards. I like that. I got a feeling that the Lions are going to be playing down in this game. I think they're going to be playing from behind. So because of that, I'm going to look at Jared Goff's pass line here. And, he's the freebie tonight. Perfect. We'll just lock that in. Jared Goff is the freebie right now on Sleeper, more than a half yard. So just pencil that in. Let's go to receiving yards. I'm guessing he's going to be targeting Amon-Ra. So I'm going to go more on Amon-Ra, 70.5. I think that they're going to be playing down, from behind. You go back to the Bills-Lions game last year. It could be something similar to that, where it never felt like the Lions were in it, but offensively they just kept scoring. Even though they were down 2 scores the majority of the game, they had to keep throwing. Kind of how I see this game going. And then let's take a look at the rush yards. Henry, let's just go Henry anytime touchdown. I think that is probably a safe play. So those are my plays right here on speaker. Here they are. We'll go with more than 45.5 rush yards for Lamar, We'll go with more than a half yard in the freebie there for Jared Goff. We'll go more than 70.5 yards for Amon-Ra St. Brown. And we'll do a touchdown for Derrick Henry. Multiplier on that, 5.9. If you want to tell that or create your own slip for not only this game, but all the upcoming games this week, do so on the Sleeper app with the promo code BF25. That'll get you a 100% match up to $100. Once again, use the promo code BF25 and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper in the link in the description today. That should be a good game. For Monday Night Football, as far as that is concerned, this is a hell of a matchup. But who are the Detroit Lions, right? Because in week 1, they get waxed by the Green Bay Packers just to turn around and wax the Chicago Bears. The NFL is kind of all over the place right now. Green Bay Packers, I'm ready to cement them as the best team in football. Lose to the Cleveland Browns the way that they did. Dallas looked good through the first couple of weeks. Obviously, defense is a bit of a sieve, but I thought that Dak Prescott was looking good. I mean, they got stomped by Chicago. So I don't know if we know what Detroit is. I feel like we know what Baltimore is. They had the Bills on the ropes with a 99% chance to win. Then they went out and housed, just destroyed a Cleveland Browns team that wound up beating what many thought was the best team in the league this past weekend. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Let's get to a couple of super chats. The breakdown kicking us off was great. Meeting you at the game bot. The Jackson Haas anytime TD was an insane pull. So I think that this has to be Paul. And I can't believe it took me this long to mention Paul. Paul, if this is you, I think this has got to be you. First of all, Paul is the man. Paul came all the way from England to hang out with the fellas. Unbelievable. Paul, it was a privilege. But Paul had the biggest W of the whole week. Coming all the way from England, not only did he get to witness the Bills get it done, not only did we get to all hang out together, Paul had the most insane bet you'd ever make. So the Bills are down near the goal line, and he mentions that he has more than a dollar. Let's just say that, a couple of bucks on Jackson Haas anytime touchdown. The odds on it were plus 4,500. And as we all know, Allen's rolling towards the pylon. Is he going to run it in? Nope. Shovels it to Jackson Haas. First career touchdown. And Paul nails the bet. And I'm pretty sure it paid for his entire trip. You can't beat that. So what an experience for Paul. I was glad to just be around that. I told Paul, I said, I'm going to be sharing that story because that was an all-timer. I was just glad to be a witness of that. Not often you're in the presence of just an all-timer. What are the odds of you throwing money down on that? I mean, they're clearly banking on nobody doing it because of what the odds were. Paul said, not so fast. He absolutely nailed it. That was awesome. So great to meet you, my friend. Richie coming in. He's saying, evening, my guy. I need help getting past the third down D. I know injuries and guys coming back from suspension, et cetera, soon, but I'm kind of uneasy. Go Bills. Hold that thought, Richie. We're going to get to that when we break down the game because that was the biggest red flag of Thursday night. It's been a red flag for these Buffalo Bills for some time now, that third down defense, and it was about as bad as it can get on Thursday night. It was bad enough to where that almost was the reason why this game went south. Almost the reason why the Dolphins were able to get in position to tie this game up, and who knows what happens from there if not for the Tua Tagovailoa interception that wound up sealing things. We got Cam coming in. Been with y'all since you were Bills fanatics. Shout out to you, Cam, and OG. So many OGs. It puts into perspective how long you've been doing it when we meet with people and we talk about it. It's crazy. I was telling people, I used to do this in the shed of my college house. And that shed was the equivalent of the house in The Wizard of Oz that lands on top of the Wicked Witch. I mean, it was literally like one gust of wind away from just being blown off of its own structure. And that's how long it's been. And now here we are, kid on the way, right? Married a year. So it's been a long, long time. And it's so great to meet so many people, interact with so many people who have been on the other side of the screen throughout that entire duration. So Richie brought it up, third down defense, and that was the Achilles heel for Buffalo on Thursday night. It was getting to the point where I was losing my mind. I'm sitting next to Dan. I'm sitting next to Rico. I keep saying, man, if they convert one more of these third and longs, I'm going to have to run through the glass in front of us. Obviously, I never did, but I was tempted to. For the amount of times that the Miami Dolphins were somehow able to extend drives and move the sticks on plays that just didn't add up. I mean, you're looking at this team. You don't trust a Tua-led offense to be able to make big plays consistently, yet they were. They really were able to make plays throughout the game that you just would not have expected, I think. And this, I think, you have to factor in where they were at in this game. They needed this. An 0-3 start, that is the nail in the coffin if you're an NFL team. You start 0-3, your season's essentially over. Unless you find some sort of resurgence that's unprecedented throughout the history of the sport, your season's essentially done if you go 0-3. You're playing a desperate team that's not only desperate because they're looking for a win in this particular circumstance, but they're desperate because they're looking for a win against Buffalo in general. Josh Allen and the Bills have owned the Tua-led Miami Dolphins, and they were just looking for a spark that could have potentially resurrected their season. If Miami wins this game, I think it's a different outlook moving forward. You're talking to Miami fans at the game. They're ready to fire McDaniel. They're ready to do a full sweep, really. They're ready to do a clean sweep. If you win that game, everything changes. And that's the insanity of the NFL. A couple of plays go your way, and the outlook of the season changes. Jobs become more secure. Contracts get initiated. It's just a couple of plays. And the majority of the plays made by the Dolphins were positive. They weren't anything, worthy of a SportsCenter top 10, but that's the way that they are going to remain in games against Buffalo. More often than not, the Miami Dolphins have shot themselves in the foot by not taking what's easy, forcing things that lead to turnovers or that lead to stall out drives, and the Bills end up pulling away quite sizably. You look at the Josh Allen record against the Dolphins, but it's not just the record, it's the margin of victory that they've beaten these Dolphins with over that time span. Numerous games of winning by 3 scores or more, multiple games, just handfuls of games. The way you're going to stay in it is exactly the way that they wound up orchestrating their game plan. And you got to give credit. I mean, they really did a good job of taking what was coming to them, not forcing much, and then, of course, extending drives when those third and longs popped up. But this was just egregious on the part of Buffalo. Third down efficiency for Miami, they were 10 of 15. They were also 1 of 1 on fourth down attempts. So we're looking at 15 drives for Miami, 15 moments in the game where they forced drive-ending situations, and they capitalized on 11 of them. You're playing against any other team in that game that's worth their salt, right? You're playing against really anybody that is a mediocre or better team, really. At least it feels that way. Maybe slightly better than mediocre, because I think at this point it's safe to say the Dolphins are mediocre, probably a little bit worse. So let's just say if you're better than mediocre in this league, those numbers are more than likely going to be enough to get it done. And, it could have been enough to get it done if not for that final error by the Dolphins and a terrific play by Terrell Bernard, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The play calling was very conservative for Miami, and it was to their benefit. You could tell all game long the game was being managed so that the Miami Dolphins didn't lose this game themselves. Didn't it seem to be the game plan? We're not going to lose this game because of our own on our own accord. The Bills are going to have to go down and score enough to beat us without us shooting ourselves in the foot to the point of blasting our foot off of our ankle because of the amount of errors we made. They really didn't make any errors until the most pivotal point of the game. And of course, the roughing the punter, which we'll also talk about in a minute. Those were the two game-swinging, most pivotal moments in this football game that both were on the wrong end of the Miami Dolphins side of things. Two massive errors. But it wasn't just the third down conversions that were frustrating. It was the length in which they were converting these third downs. I don't have the exact number, but the amount of times that they were facing 3rd and 7 or longer and they converted was just uncanny. And it was getting to the point where you were almost expecting it. They wouldn't do anything on first down or second down. The Bills' defense was extraordinary on those 2 downs, but all of a sudden you would get into 3rd and long and everything would just collapse. You had a play where Tua rolled to the left and threw the ball on the run. You never see him do that. Converts a long third down. You saw him get out of a sack, scramble, and run for a third down. You really do not see Tua run like that anymore, especially since the injuries. You just don't see him do that. Yet he did. Everything was being thrown to the numbers for the most part on the outside towards the sideline, and it was there. They were making plays, extending drives, but it was awfully conservative. I mean, Tua threw the ball a ton, and for the numbers that he posed, it's pretty remarkable it was this low, but it's a perfect indicator of the game plan. Tua threw the ball 34 times. He finished with 146 yards, and those numbers are a bit deceiving because I think about 30 of those yards came in garbage time when the Bills were already up 10 and the Dolphins were just trying to do something at the end before the clock ran out. I mean, Tua really realistically had about 120 yards on 34 attempts. But in a weird way, it was exactly how they needed to play in order to allow this game to be within reach. If Tua was slinging the ball over the field, going down, down the field and trying to make something happen every drive, I think that this would have been a Bills blowout. Really, there's only one example of Tua throwing the ball deep, and it was that bomb down the field that was about 10 yards too short. It was the play that Christian Benford got banged up on. And those are the plays that you look at if you're a Dolphins fan or you're Mike McDaniel and you're thinking, this is how we lose. If we continuously try to make plays like that happen, inevitably it's going to get intercepted or something bad's going to happen. This is not how we're going to play this game. And to McDaniel's credit and to Tua's credit, they avoided those type of plays pretty much throughout the full duration of the football game. According to Next Gen Stats, Tua completed as many passes behind the line of scrimmage as passes beyond the line of scrimmage. He had 22 completions. 11 of them came from behind the line of scrimmage. And that might, in your mind, you might think that would result in a really poor outing. The problem is the Bills have not been able to find a reliable stop to the screen game. This has been a problem for what seems like forever. Screens seem to be one of the primary Achilles heels for the Buffalo Bills defense. Everybody seems to have their way when it comes to dumping it off behind the line of scrimmage and setting up a screen. It just seems like it works more often than it doesn't. And they were going to the well a ton, and it worked a good amount. And teams do this. I think smart teams, at least, routinely do this, where they will find ways to set different screen packages up against this Bills defense because they work. And once again, this was by design. I don't think Tua was just dumping it off for his health. I think this was by design. I think this was the strategy. I don't think you throw as many passes behind the line of scrimmage as you do beyond the line of scrimmage unless that is the game plan. And it was working. This game was tied at half. This was a tie football game at half, and it felt like it shouldn't have been. It felt like the Bills were dominating this football game until they weren't. And even at half, it still felt like they were the superior team. It felt like they were the much better team, and it felt like they were up by at least a score, and they weren't. The game was tied. But you were waiting for the Dolphins to do Dolphin things, and they inevitably wound up doing that. And that's the difference between the Bills and the Dolphins, and that's the difference between the Bills and teams right now that are trying to find their footing in this league, that are trying to sort of rise above being in the basement right now. The Bills, knock on wood, do not make mistakes, and they wait for you to make them, or they force you into making them. That has been a major difference in these first three football games. The Bills win the turnover battle almost every game. I really can't remember the last time that they didn't. I'm sure somebody in here knows, but the point still remains. They just don't lose it. And when talking about this defense, for all their flaws, which there are several, the one thing that they're better at than anybody, and we talked about it throughout the offseason, and I said, I'm going to believe in their ability to do it until they stop doing it. And through 3 weeks, they're continuing to do it. Their ability to bend but not break and force turnovers is uncanny. It is unlike anything we have seen.
I saw it.
What?
The turnovers.
Oh, you did see the turnovers?
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure. I was just double checking to make sure you saw them.
I saw them. They're unbelievable.
You did? All right. Caroline's very privy to the turnover situation currently in Buffalo. But think about it, right? Week 1, The Bills do not win that game if they don't force the fumble on Derrick Henry. That was the lone turnover in the entire football game. It was the ultimate difference. I think they still beat the Jets without turning them over, but think about the tone set in that game from the Joey Bosa strip sack on drive 2. If the Bills don't force that strip sack and score right off of it, I don't think the tone is set the way that it was, and it might have been a different game. The Bills are still going to win that game against the Jets 10 out of 10 times. I'm not saying they wouldn't, but think about what it did for the rest of the game. It quite literally put the Jets away. That game was over what felt like midway through the second quarter. Would it have felt the same without that strip sack? Maybe not. And then in this game, the Bills do not have the ability to ice out the game and take a 10-point lead if not for forcing a pivotal, critical, crucial turnover when it mattered most. So for all of these flaws that the Buffalo Bills defense has, the one thing that they are great at might be the most important thing in the entire sport when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, and that is forcing turnovers. They are unbelievable at it. In fact, they are better than anybody else over a long stretch of time here. Under Sean McDermott, they have been in the top 10 in the turnover differential each and every season. And when they're forcing these turnovers, can't be overstated. It is impressive beyond belief at their ability to go throughout the entire game and have moments that leave you scratching your head saying, man, they're just getting rolled. They're not doing what they should be. It feels like it's not their night. And then all of a sudden, when the game is on the doorstep of being tied, there's Terrell Bernard right where he needs to be to pick it off. There's Deion Walker with the rush of the night. Did you see what he did to that offensive lineman on that rep? Ragdolled the line of the Miami Dolphins, got into his face within a millisecond. Nothing Tua could do. He had to go to his read, throws it, and boom, his read just so happened to be a wide open Terrell Bernard. And to Terrell Bernard's credit, he studied that on game film. He had seen that play run by the Dolphins prior. He knew exactly what Tua wanted to do. So the combination of terrific defense on that pivotal play was on display. You had the homework done by Terrell Bernard, the ability to execute that homework and be exactly where he needed to be. You had the rush by Deion Walker, the ability to get past the line instantly, the quickness with that size, get onto Tua, and it results in the biggest play of the game, the game-sealing play for the Buffalo Bills. I don't sit here and say I feel great about the Bills' defense. And we just talked about the third down D, and it's a problem, and it's been a problem. But this team continues to score 30 points per game on the other side, and this defense continues to make a play when it matters most. The problem that you have is you're waiting for that play to not be made, and you're waiting for that to cost them because it feels like this is the continuous way the Bills find ways to get it done on the defensive side of the ball. You think, Caroline, could you close the door there, honey? You'd think Caroline was showering in Niagara Falls right now. I'm going to go close the door real quick. That is the loudest shower I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, Caroline had the shower head setting on Niagara. I hope she doesn't go bald after going in there. Anyhow, so yeah, you know, the D did some things in this game that were commendable, right? I mean, they certainly did. They were able to get after Tua frequently. The problem is they just couldn't sack him. And they don't typically sack Tua. They force him into mistakes, but they don't typically sack Tua. I believe I heard that they've only sacked him twice in the last 4 games, so that's not their MO. But getting after him certainly is, and usually that results in more mistakes than not. It didn't this game because Tua kept taking the easy throw. He kept taking the easy out, and, you know, it was working for them. But the Bills' defensive pressure was sizable, right? I mean, it was good in this game despite not being able to sack Tua. I mean, they were getting after him throughout the football game. And when it mattered most, they wound up getting after him, not sacking him, but getting after him enough to force him into a throw he probably wishes he had back. And from there, the rest is history. And you don't have Ed Oliver. You don't have Matt Milano. So you factor those things in. But I don't want to put too much on that because, they didn't have Ed Oliver against the Jets, and they had an incredible outing defensively in that football game. Just looking at some numbers here. And here's the one thing I think is a massive difference in this as we transition into talking about what the offense did in this game and kind of what this game felt like overall. So according to Next Gen Stats, Josh Allen and Tua combined to average 1.5 air yards per completion in week 3. That is the lowest mark in a game in the Next Gen Stats era. So when you're looking at what Tua did through the air and what Allen did through the air, they were both awfully conservative throughout the evening. And I think people are looking at that and they're saying, oh, no, Allen's taking a step back. Joe Brady taking a step back, far more conservative. Here's the difference. When you're looking at those two quarterbacks playing a very similar style in that game, Josh Allen doesn't make any mistakes. And when Josh Allen goes down the field, he makes a play or two that winds up being a big difference. When Allen goes down the field to Kincaid, caught, touchdown. When Tua goes down the field, it's 10 yards short, and he doesn't do it again. When Allen's dinking and dunking, he does the same thing all game and does not let you bait him into a bad throw. Tua's dinking and dunking all game. The second he decides to go away from the outside of the field, the outside of the numbers, and go over the middle of the field, he's intercepted. Tom Brady won 6 Super Bowls dinking and dunking the football. Josh Allen at this point in his career has found a way to eradicate making mistakes, and the reason he's been able to do that is because he no longer forces things that aren't there. And I don't quite understand why people are frustrated with Allen not airing the ball down the field like they used to in the Diggs, early in the Diggs Davis era. Is it way more fun to watch? Yeah, it's a lot more fun to watch Allen throw go balls 80 yards down the field. It's fun. Is it conducive to winning football games consistently? Not as much as the way that they're playing right now is. When you pair what James Cook is doing on the ground with Josh Allen's efficiency, not turning the ball over, and getting the ball out rapidly, you're signing up for this all day. No, it's not air raid hour, and no, it's not the most entertaining football you've ever seen. But I'm watching the Philadelphia Eagles, who haven't lost a game in I think 2 years. It feels like they play the most boring football in the league. Do you want entertaining football, or do you want to win? I love being entertained, but I want the Buffalo Bills to win. And we are 2 weeks removed from one of the most entertaining football games we've ever seen in week 1 against Baltimore. It's not like this team is incapable of being entertaining and making incredible plays. But when you're playing against a team in which you are an 11-point favorite over, does Allen need to be doing more than asked in order to get the football game to win the football game? When you're playing the New York Jets on the road and you already have a 10-point lead, basically walking out of the tunnel, does Allen need to air the ball over the field? No. And this is why I'm fine with this. You look at the numbers and people were saying, well, Tua and Allen, what was the difference in that game? Well, the difference was you never felt confident in Tua winning that football game, while you felt supremely confident in Allen winning that football game the entire time. And when Allen needed to drive the distance and score, he did every single time for the most part. And when Tua needed to get it done in the most pivotal moment, he threw an interception. You saw the stat by now. I think since the beginning of December of last year or November of last year, Josh Allen, 30 touchdowns to 1 interception. We're watching historic stuff, especially for a guy who was known to be a turnover machine. Don't you remember that moniker that Josh Allen had adopted himself based on the way he had played through the first several seasons of his career? A turnover machine. The guy has now become the precedent for clean football. Clean football. So, yeah, was it boring? 1.5 air yards? Yeah, it was pretty boring. Did they win? Yeah. Are they 3-0? Yeah. Is he still playing exceptionally well? Yeah. I mean, this is the definition of efficient here, folks. I mean, Josh Allen's 22 of 28, 213 yards and 3 touchdowns in this football game. And you would look at it and you would be like, it wasn't the most exciting game I've ever seen. This is where we're at now, folks. This is where the Bills are at. And I think it's been tough for us to transition into this mindset where now the Bills winning a divisional game by 10, scoring 31 points has now become, I I don't know. It wasn't that great. I don't know. They don't look that good. I don't know if this is a Super Bowl team. Just say that out loud. 31 points in a divisional football game, winning by double digits. I've seen better. Against the Jets in week 2. 30-10 victory. I don't know. James Cook played well, but man, I don't know. Allen didn't have to do anything. This is your MVP? This is your MVP, Josh Allen, with 150 yards? This is your guy? Yep. Yes. This is what the Buffalo Bills have become. They've become so good that when they are winning in boring fashion, when they are winning in ways that aren't necessarily 100% dominant through the entirety of the football game, takeaways are often, I don't know. They don't look that great. I'm not loving this. They're not what I thought they were. They've now won 3 games in 3 different ways. They won with Josh Allen putting the cape on in week 1 against a team that is just as good as they are, if not better. They won in week 2 simply relying on the dominance of the defense in the ground game. And then in week 3, they won with Josh Allen playing exceptionally efficient football, while James Cook matches that efficiency with another unbelievable day on the ground, and then the defense making a big play when it mattered most. This is a team that can beat you in so many different ways, and in order to go the distance, you have to have the ability to win in different games or in different ways. And I think through 3 weeks, they've won those games in 3 different styles. But it's now become, Josh Allen, 22 of 28, 213 and 3 touchdowns is just an But the problem is you see a game in week 1 that is unlike anything you've ever seen. And then I think the bar gets set so high that people are just unimpressed with anything that doesn't hit that bar. But in the reality, it doesn't matter. Who cares? The guy gets it done when it matters most, knock on wood, stays healthy, doesn't turn it over. He's become everything you've wanted him to be. All throughout Josh Allen's career, the one thing you were saying was, man, I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like this guy, but I really wish he'd dial back the sugar high type play. I wish he'd dial back the turnovers. I wish he'd dial back forcing stuff. Not only has he dialed it back, he's ripped the knob off the machine. I think he's the most dependable quarterback in the NFL right now. I think he is the most efficient, clean-cut quarterback in the NFL right now, Josh Allen. 2 years ago, there's not a soul who is a NFL fan that would have believed you. What he's been able to do over the last calendar year is unlike anything I think any of the most optimistic Bills fans could have predicted. Because you're still getting the production while eliminating all of the negative that seemed to be attached to the benefit of having that guy as your quarterback. Once again, Tom Brady became the greatest quarterback in the history of the sport by taking what the defense gave him, by being the best pre-snap quarterback in the league, by being smart, by being efficient. Josh Allen's become all those things. And I'm not saying that Josh Allen is Tom Brady, but wouldn't you want him to be closer to that of Tom Brady than that of maybe anything else? You're still going to get the elements of his game that Tom Brady couldn't dream of doing. But now, throughout the bulk share of the game, you're getting the Tom Brady-esque things that are conducive to winning football games. I mean, Hillslayer saying, this is a good way to describe it. Josh Allen's playing crisp. It's just crisp. It's just clean, cut, crisp. I mean, that's what it is. And here's a stat that'll really, really send this home. This is a perfect representation of what Josh Allen has become in this football game. And people look at the pass charts and they're like, what in the dink and dunk is this? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, the second they're going to give him something downfield, he's going to take it. You saw Kincaid open down the field. He took it. You saw him slinging it all over the field against the Ravens. He took every opportunity that they gave him. The Jackson Hawes throw, the Josh Palmer throw, the Keon Coleman throw. I mean, come on. People act like this is all he does. He's just doing it when needed. According to Next Gen Stats, Josh Allen in the quick passing game against Miami, was 13 of 15 for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was on passes that were thrown in under 2.5 seconds. On average against the Dolphins, Allen threw the ball in less than 2.62 seconds. That resulted in only 3 pressures. And I know Allen was sacked 2 times in this game, but that is an outlier. Allen doesn't get sacked twice in a game very often. Outlier. Allen only attempted 1 pass of 10 air yards or more, and that was a pass to Dalton Kincaid. If you're giving it to him, he's going to take it. It used to be that teams were going to try to bait Allen into doing something that he shouldn't so that they could get him to turn the ball over and they could remain in the football game. Now it's pick your poison. You're going to give him the underneath, he's going to take it. You're going to give him it deep, he's going to take it. You're going to rely on him throwing the ball, making it go through Allen's arm, he's going to win the football game. You're going to try and take the pass game away. James Cook's playing the best running back in the NFL right now. Let's transition to that element of this football game. James Cook, another unbelievable day. James Cook is looking, he's made everybody who questioned paying him the amount of money that he wanted this offseason look like fools, including myself. I always wanted to retain James Cook. I didn't want to pay him maybe what he was demanding or what it felt like he was demanding throughout the offseason. I was satisfied with the deal that they reached, and now it's looking like it was a steal. I know we're only 3 games in, but this is a guy that I think a lot of people question whether he was even deserving of the contract that he did get. Maybe not all of us, but there were certainly people out there saying, yeah, James Cook, getting paid that amount of money. Well, what a start he's off to. Coming off of a very tumultuous offseason for him, right? Constantly in the news. He's a constant storyline. He's at practice. He's not at practice. He's holding in. He's not holding in. He's holding out. He's not. 53 carries for over 5 yards an attempt on those 53 carries. 284 yards on the ground. 4 touchdowns. Now, in 2022 and 2023, he only had 2 touchdowns in each of those seasons. And I remember, we were having the conversation of, is the touchdown number sustainable? Is the touchdown number James Cook had a season ago where he scored 18 total touchdowns? Is that sustainable? And I was thinking that it probably wasn't. But I also thought it wasn't going to be as low as the first 2 years. How could it be? Only 2? Well, right now he's on pace to shatter 2024's touchdown total. Will he? You know how the season goes. It's not that easy. But you play 3 games. So we'll just do the quick math. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. We'll give him an extra one. 8 to 18 weeks in the season. So 6, 12, 18, 24. He's on pace for right around 20-ish touchdowns. So maybe not shatter 2024, but he's on par to do it again. And that's not just some poo-poo. Oh, he's on par to have another season like he did last year. No, he's on par to lead the league in touchdowns again. That's what he did in 2024. This Bills offense has become so lethal because of what he is bringing to the table. The guy is one of the toughest tackles in the NFL right now. He's one of the toughest guys to bring down. And me and Rico were watching from the box there where you got a really nice vantage point. And, his savviness now, his ability to find the hole and maneuver his body to get there, his IQ, his acumen as a runner, it's so noticeable. 5.7 yards per carry in this game on 19 carries, 108 yards, and another touchdown. The guy's been unbelievable through the first 3 weeks. And I don't think it's crazy to say through the first 3 weeks of the football season, James Cook is one of, if not the best running back in the NFL right now. Consistent throughout 3 weeks. I mean, you're averaging right near 100 yards a game through 3 weeks. And he also has 71 yards through the air as well. So right now, if you're looking at total numbers, he's well over 300 total yards through 3 weeks, averaging over 100 total yards per game right now. And that's just James Cook's side of things. That's not factoring in the reigning MVP, maybe the best quarterback in football. That's what the Bills have going right now. And then the other elements of this offense, too, that you're getting excited about. You saw it in week 1 with Keon Coleman. It was a high bar to set in week 1. That was not a bar you could anticipate seeing every single week. But in a game where they needed him most, Keon Coleman rose to the occasion. In week 1, Keon Coleman was the best receiver for these Bills out on the field, and he was a pivotal reason in them being able to win that football game. You saw him rise to the occasion in week 1. It's been a bit more quiet the last 2 weeks, but so has the passing game overall. We just talked about it. Josh Allen's average attempt in this game was 1.5 yards. They didn't need Keon Coleman to be what he was in week 1 and in week 2 or week 3. But we saw it in week 1. And I think the ability to just see it in such a big game like that meant a lot. And you know that he's capable of doing it when the Bills need it. Just because Keon Coleman's numbers aren't that of 2007 Randy Moss doesn't mean he hasn't been better. You saw it in week 1, and they just haven't needed that in week 2 and week 3. But you saw it with him. And you're seeing it with Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid, him and Keon Coleman were basically tied at the hip this offseason in terms of guys you'd bring up that you need to see more out of this season. Dalton Kincaid, top of that list. You're waiting to see the first-round draft pick look like the first-round draft pick, look like everyone thought he was going to be. He's been fine for Buffalo, but he hasn't been the guy for Josh Allen. Well, through the first 3 weeks, through his 3-year career here, through the first 3 weeks of the 2025 season, Dalton Kincaid is off to his best start yet. Got the most yards through 3 weeks of his career, or through the first 3 weeks of his career. He's got the most receptions through the first 3 weeks of his career, most touchdowns through the first 3 weeks of his career. Not only the most touchdowns through the first 3 weeks, he's already tied his touchdown total from 2024 and 2023. He finished both of those seasons with only 2 touchdowns. We're heading into week 4. Dalton Kincaid already has 2 touchdowns. And he's catching the vast majority of his targets. 16 targets, 13 receptions on those 16 targets. He has noticeably been the guy through the first 3 weeks. Averaging just under 12 yards a reception right now, making plays, catching most everything that comes his way, getting in the end zone. I mean, through the first 3 weeks, it's Khalil Shakir that's been a little bit more quiet than you maybe were anticipating. Josh Palmer, it hasn't been this insane thing. Once again, it's right back to what these Bills are great at. Everybody eats. 30-plus points in all 3 games, and they've done it in a variety of different ways while also keeping the main things consistent. Right? Offensive line play. Great. James Cook. Great. Allen taking what's given to him. Wasn't great in week 2, but I have to rule that out because it didn't need to be great. Really good in week 3. Great in week 1. And then different receivers getting involved. You had Khalil Shakir shine in this Dolphins game. He gets in the end zone. He has a couple of big receptions throughout the game. I've loved the utilization of Elijah Moore. It hasn't been anything crazy, but there's been packages that have been created to get him involved, use that speed. You've seen it a couple times around the end zone. You saw it late in the game, wide open in the middle of the field. He uses that speed to get upfield, get the Bills into Dolphins territory, help salt this one away. They're doing everything right in different ways. Getting different receivers involved, right? You're getting, nine or so guys a game getting involved in the pass game. There's just so many different things about this offense that you have to love. And I think that's why right now they're operating at the most efficient level perhaps in the sport. I want to say Philadelphia, but I don't know, because that game yesterday, they probably should have lost. The pass game isn't great. They haven't been running the ball the way that we're accustomed to seeing them. I think right now the Bills are playing the best offense in the NFL, maybe outside of the Indianapolis Colts, which is insane to say. I think maybe the Colts right now are playing the best offense in football. Let's just take a look at the Colts right now, which I can't get over this start. I mean, this is unbelievable. The Colts through 3 weeks, 33 points, 29 points, 41 points. It's basically the Colts and the Bills right now that are putting up these offensive numbers. We'll see what Baltimore does tonight. If Baltimore puts up similar numbers to their first 2 weeks, they're right on par with Buffalo as well. But the point still remains. Buffalo, once again, skips no beats, comes right out again this season, much like the last few, and have cemented themselves as the best or one of the best offenses in football. And now you're just waiting. What's up, ladies? Peyton, did you just take a bath? Are you all clean? Peyton and Aunt Diney just took a big bath.
Yeah.
Now is it bedtime?
You want to go say go Bills?
You want to say go Bills?
Go.
You want to say go Bills?
1, 2, 3.
Say it.
Go.
1, 2, 3. Go Bills. And what do you think? Who do you think's going to win tonight, Peyton? No, the Bills aren't playing tonight.
Oh.
The Ravens.
Daddy's team.
She's a queen of many words.
Yeah, she is.
Peyton is. So yeah, I mean, on offense in this one, very efficient. The second half was a little bit frustrating. The inability to kind of get things going the way you were hoping in the second half, especially off of what you were seeing in the first half. But they still scored 17 points in the second half. This is what it's come down to. Where I think we're expecting so much so frequently. You just have to let the game play out with these guys. You just got to let the game play out because they just get to 30 no matter what. It's really remarkable. I got to look back here, not counting. We won't count the, I'm looking back here at the numbers. So last year you score 30 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the 20 games that they played, right? So half, right? Yeah. And then this season, you're already at 3. It's a lot of the same, isn't it? Where the offense, you're relying on it. Josh Allen's been great. James Cook's been great. The O-line's been great. They're not turning it over. And then the defense, it's a lot of holding your breath. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. But the similarity in the sense that they're winning the turnover battle by Allen being as efficient as he was last year, unprecedentedly, and the Bills turning the ball over, once again, unprecedentedly. They had 16 fumbles forced last year, 16 interceptions last year. Already have at least a turnover in every game thus far, up through 3 weeks. Is there areas of concern? Absolutely. You are concerned to somewhat of a noticeable degree right now on this defense. But once again, for as concerned as I am about the defense at times, the moments that matter the most, they seem to step up. And they are banged up right now. And I know that's no excuse because they're always banged up. But after the bye, they'll get Ogunjobi, they'll get Hoyt. Oliver will be healthy. Hopefully, Milano will be healthy. And you know where I stand on all that. Healthy by January. So the Dolphins fall to 0-3. The Jets lose another heartbreaker. I don't know how you could be a Jets fan right now. I mean, holy smokes. Jets lose a heartbreaker on Sunday afternoon after losing a heartbreaker week 1. I mean, the Bills rolled them, but just another doozy. And one more point on this Dolphins game, by the way. As crazy as this seems, where it did feel competitive throughout, and it was, this is just kind of showing you where the Bills are at in the landscape of any given game, even when it's closer than your comfort is willing to allow. According to the stats, the Bills never fell below a 69% chance to win this game. There wasn't a moment where they fell beneath a 69% chance to win the game. So not every week's going to be a demolishment. But they've proven to you every week you're going to get winning football. Now, when are they going to be tested next? And this is where we get into where we're at right now this season. So the Dolphins 0-3. The Jets, like I just mentioned, heartbreaking loss to the Buccaneers on Sunday. They're 0-3. And now the Patriots 1-2 with their lone win being over the Dolphins in dramatic fashion. This is the worst division in football. And the Bills are not only at the top of that division, they're at the top of the NFL right now with 2 divisional wins in their belt. They'll have the Patriots coming to town in 2 weeks on Sunday Night Football. Nothing I've seen from New England through the first 3 weeks has me feeling as though they will pull that one out. It is any given Sunday. I get all that. But it's any given Sunday when you watch the game. It's not any given Sunday when you're anticipating the football game. If we're talking about the Bills-Patriots game, there's really no room for you to tell me that they're winning the football game. It's like this upcoming week. You know, this is what kills me. People got scared. They're scared about what they saw against the Dolphins. They're like scared about it. It seems as though their confidence level has taken a hit because the Bills didn't beat the Dolphins by 100. The Dolphins are not a good team, but they're not like the 0-17 Lions of a decade ago. They're not good, but they're not like, you're not going to just walk on them. That's a divisional opponent that plays this team twice a year, that is desperate as all hell with their coach coaching for their job, maybe their quarterback playing for his job at this point. An organization that's desperately looking for a win to keep their season alive, to finally beat the Bills who have owned them. There was just so many things in play, and they still lost by double digits and still allowed 31. And in today's NFL, allowing 21 points is pretty, customary. Not often you're going to be holding teams to sub 20 when you have enough talent to score around that mark. I mean, come on. You got Achane, you got Tyreek, you got Waddle. That's a team that should be scoring 20 points. I know it's easier said than done for them. But, like Brock's saying here, the Finns blew their wad because they needed it. I mean, they really had to go out there and do everything possible to win that football game. And you can argue that they did. They played a whole different style of offense than I think we're used to seeing. And I thought Tua did some things that we're not accustomed to seeing from him either in a good way. It's just they're not good enough. And do you really think the Bills pulled out their full bag of tricks on Thursday night to get that W? I sure as hell don't. I don't. I'm not looking to give a pass to Joe Brady for at times being for this offense being a bit mundane or maybe a bit too vanilla. I'm not trying to give a pass, but at the same time, is there a real point in diving into Santa's treasure chest here against the Dolphins, where you're more than likely confident you're confident in the fact that you're more than likely going to win this game without needing to do it? Once again, they never fell below a 69% chance to win it, despite the game being tied at half. I mean, it was a frustrating game at times. Don't get me wrong. It was a frustrating game. And you can ask Laura, you can ask my girl Laura, you can ask anyone who was in that room with us. I mean, we were all feeling nervous at some point, but I genuinely never thought they were going to lose. I was feeling nervous at certain points, and I was not thrilled at certain points. But I don't know if I ever got to the point where I thought they were going to lose. And it's a long season. Not every game is going to be dominant. And there are takeaways from that game that you're not thrilled with. But once again, we've gotten to the point where we're not thrilled with a 31-21 10-point margin of victory W against a divisional opponent. I love that. And I think we're going to see this throughout the next couple of weeks here, where I don't think you're going to see the Bills play like the greatest show on turf, because I just don't think that they need to do it. But people are a little nervous after what they saw the other day. And I know this might be some foot and mouth moment, because I just said I don't think they're going to look like the greatest show on turf. But the thing is that they could. I tweeted out the Bills might beat this Saints team by 70. I just watched Sam Darnold and that special teams from Seattle put up 40-plus points on that team, hold them to 13. You're telling me the Bills can't do something similar? No, I get the argument that they might not do something similar. That's an argument I'm willing to hear out. Right? That's an argument I'm willing to hear out, because They might not be willing to just go nuts in that game if they're up by, 17 and the game's in hand late in the third quarter. Why are we? It's like the Jets game. They probably could have won that by far more, and they just like, what's the point? Run the clock out, But I tweeted that out, and I got a ton of comments like, oh, that's what we said about the Dolphins game. Humble and hungry. Don't jinx it. Guys, if the Bills lose to the Saints, something catastrophic will have to happen. Allen will have to have like 4 picks, or he'll have to stub his toe and get locked in the bathroom while they're taping it or something and not be able to get back out on the field. I mean, can you give me a plausible explanation as to how they're going to lose it? I got people giving me examples like, the Browns just beat the Packers. The Browns might have the best defense in the NFL. There's nothing about the Saints that's the best in any category at all. Nothing. Not even close. Like the Browns offensively, no. Yeah, there's nothing. But they have a unreal D. And the Packers made a couple of bonehead errors in that game. They win it. It is any given Sunday. But the Bills would have to literally mess their pants on 5 separate occasions to lose this football game. And I'm just seeing a whole lot of, I'm worried about the D, this and that. Like, what do you make of this team? If you look at this game on Sunday, like, what do you make of this team if the Saints is a team that's concerning you? I mean, I'm all for being, willing to not look past teams and take games as they come and not get my head inflated as a fan. You're a 17-point favorite. You're just speaking facts. I mean, you're just being truthful. Will they beat them by 70? Probably not. But they don't need to. My whole point is that they could. And I just was kind of shocked at the response to that. I was kind of shocked at the response to that tweet because it seemed as though after what we saw in the Dolphins game, people are scared that this team's not capable of beating down on a team. Short week, divisional opponent, a team playing for their life. And they won by 10. And people seem to be concerned that the Bills don't have an ability to wax inferior opponents. We play down to teams. Yeah, there's been a history of playing down. 17-point favorite. I mean, do you realize that would go down as one of the biggest upsets in NFL history? I believe the Bills were a 17-point dog to the Vikings in the Josh Allen leap game his rookie year. It would be like that type of win. That win currently is one of the biggest upsets in NFL history. That's what that would be. And I don't anticipate it. In fact, I anticipate a beatdown. Bills are also on 10 days rest at home. 10 days rest against that team. So here's the current makeup of the NFL as it stands. You have 6 undefeated teams. The Bills, the Chargers, the Colts. Interesting. Chiefs get their first win on Monday night, by the way. And did not look good. As Collinsworth said, there was a path for the Giants to win that game. Numerous mistakes. And then in the NFC, Eagles should have lost to the Rams. Can't believe they won that game. Rams poo-pooed that game away. Credit to the Eagles for taking it, including blocking the kick at the end. That was nuts. Rams should have won that game. They didn't. Eagles can't lose. It's pretty remarkable. They're 3-0. Niners 3-0. That will not last. That team is as banged up as you'll find. And now Nick Bosa, season-ending injury. Season-ending injury yesterday. So now the Niners lose Nick Bosa. Juwan Jennings has been hurt. They've been without Purdy. Give credit to Mac Jones for winning 2 consecutive. They're 3-0 for now. Their schedule is light, but that's not a team you look at right now that you feel like is a juggernaut. It's a banged-up team. And then you got the Tampa Bay Bucks. They're 3-0, and all 3 wins have come in the final 2 minutes of the game in game-winning drives by Baker Mayfield. I believe I saw a stat. It's the first time since 1950 that a team has started the season 3-0, winning all 3 games with a last-minute drive. So good for the Bucs. The Bills have them coming up in about a month and a half or so. So you look at the landscape of the league right now, and the Bills and the Eagles seem to be the only 2 teams of the remaining 6 undefeated that feel like that should be the case. Chargers, give them credit. They've played good football. They're 3-0 with 3 quality wins, right? They have 3 divisional wins. They've played all 3 teams in the division. They've won all 3. Herbert looks good. Defense looks good. Do you trust the Chargers, though? That remains to be seen. You thought you could trust them going into the playoffs last year. They got trounced. The Bengals are at the top of the North. I mean, goodness gracious. They're going to need to make a phone call. I mean, that fan base, I kind of feel bad. With the amount of injuries that Burrow has sustained now, you had all these high hopes for the season. I mean, they got dismantled by the Vikings. Dismantled, who also had a backup quarterback in Carson Wentz. It wasn't like they were playing, the Brett Favre era Vikings. They were playing a Vikings team that was led by a quarterback who hadn't played in a year, and they got rolled. The Colts 3-0. I don't know what to make of this team. Their offense is as good as anybody in the league right now, and that division is terrible. You got the Jags right behind them at 2-1. But the Texans and the Titans are 0-3, and the Texans shockingly are 0-3. So here's the current landscape. The Bills are 3-0, and here's the upcoming slate. Saints, who they're a 17-point favorite against, at home, off a 10 days rest. Sunday Night Football against the Patriots, whose lone win is against the Dolphins in a circus of a game. The Falcons, who you might be thinking, oh, that's, Falcons are not bad. I don't know if you saw the stat. Michael Penix has not won a game with the Saints where the opponent has scored more than 7 points. Now, Bijan Robinson could pose a threat there. I think their defense has gotten better, and I like Michael Penix, but that's an inferior team to Buffalo, and it's on Monday Night Football under the lights. I know it's on the road, but Josh Allen primetime against a quarterback in his first full year as a starter who's gotten off to a rocky start. Then you hit the bye. And then off of the bye, you're playing the Panthers, who have an argument right now to maybe be the worst team in the NFL. At least one of them. And then you got the Chiefs. And I think that's where you look at it and you say, this is the first real test. They will be back to form, I would imagine, by then. They will be back to form. They're going to get Rashee Rice back. They're going to get Xavier Worthy back. So they'll be better. But the Bills have been the superior team at home in the regular season against the Chiefs. And that's only that's only 2 weeks removed from the bye, coming off of that Panthers game. So, I'm bringing all this up. The 1 seed right now, it's just, we always thought this was the year to do it. But as the season is evolving here through 3 weeks, we went into the season thinking this was the year to get the 1 seed. We're 3 weeks into the season, and it's never been more of the year to get the 1 seed. It's playing out even better than you could have hoped. Because you might have thought the Bills were going to drop that first game to the Ravens. They didn't. You might have thought the Texans might be a threat. They're 0-3. The Chiefs, of course, they're 1-2. You did get that victory over the Ravens, which is going to be seismic. The division's even worse than you thought. I mean, we knew it was going to be bad. It's disastrous. There's 1 win in the division. 1 win in the AFC East amongst the 3 other teams. And that came against one another. New England getting the victory over Miami. That's it. That's it. This is the one other team you look at and you think this seems to be the 2 teams that are going to be racing for the 1 seed. It's the Baltimore Ravens, who we're about to watch in about 10 minutes here. This would be massive if the Lions could win tonight. Like I said earlier, I don't see it, but it would be huge. So the next 4 games for the Bills. Saints, Patriots, Falcons, Panthers. The next 4 games for the Ravens, including tonight: Lions, Chiefs, Texans, Rams. Now, if the Ravens sweep that slate, look out. We're going to have a barn burner of a race. But I think many of us are anticipating the Bills going into the bye at 6-0. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. That's what you're anticipating with that upcoming schedule. With the Ravens already having that lone loss to the Bills, another loss, before week 7 is big. And I would have to think among the Lions, the Chiefs, the Texans, and the Rams, there's got to be one loss in there, right? And if not, well, then it gets awfully interesting. Not that it's not going to be interesting. It's going to be. But, the Ravens have caught a major break here, I think, with the division that was supposed to be. It always is competitive, the North, but Joe Burrow down, and they haven't played him yet. They haven't played the Bengals yet. So they're going to play the Bengals now without Joe Burrow twice. The Steelers do not look good defensively. They just don't look great. Ravens are superior. And then they already destroyed the Browns once. So that division could be easier than we thought initially. I think it's going to come down to those two. But then, of course, we have to see what goes down with the Chiefs once they get their guys back. That's why I think we're kind of rooting for the Chargers to continue to roll here, to keep that lead on the division while they can. But it's an awfully interesting picture being painted in the league right now, where there's teams at the top you are not anticipating, teams at the bottom you are not anticipating. And I know it's only 3 weeks, but it's been an interesting development through these first 3 weeks. And the Bills have the luxury right now of entering into another month where they're going to be heavily favored in each game. Just got to keep plugging. No matter how they do it, just do it. 3 different variations of games that they've played the last 3 weeks. They've scored 30 in each. Haven't turned the ball over. Have turned the other team over, Have turned the other team over and have secured a W. I think that's all you can ask for. All right. I know everybody wants to go watch Ravens, Lions, as do I. So let's put a bow on this one. Hour 22 in the books on a Monday night. And it was so great to spend it with you, recapping Bills, Dolphins from Thursday of last week. And also, of course, recapping the roundtable event, which was incredible. And once again, I can't overemphasize how amazing it was to meet each and every one of you. It was a pleasure beyond belief. It was awesome. We cannot wait to do it again. Cannot wait to be with you again later on this week. Rico will be with you tomorrow night on the Rico Report. We'll be with you later in the week for Rico and Bot. And then, of course, Sunday afternoon, pregame, during the game, postgame, the boys will be hanging with you right here on the BF YouTube channel. So we look forward to hanging out with you throughout the rest of the week. But in the meantime, enjoy Monday Night Football. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening. And we'll talk soon. Much love, as always. And go Bills.